I'd probably just, try and increase awareness in the public eye, because the research is doing as much as they can, but the public need to know more. Okay, right. So I'm currently entering my final year of a PhD, looking into Alzheimer's and dementia. It's just, I think it's really complex, anything to do with the brain. We don't understand a lot about the brain anyway. So a disease like Alzheimer's, which is multifactorial, it's got so many things that contribute to its etymology. We're kind of just scrambling around looking for ideas for what might help. And so far, we've just had not very good luck. So the more paths we can explore, the more chance we have of finding something. But it's just not happened yet. So dementia just means loss of cognitive abilities. So that's what that encompasses. But Alzheimer's is the lead cause of the symptoms. So Alzheimer's is the disease that causes dementia. Each individual responds differently when they get the and some people can be very aggressive. They can deteriorate to almost a vegetative state within a couple of years. Other people might be pretty much okay for sort of 6-7 years, and then gradually get worse and worse. It just varies on each individual. There's lots of different kinds of, but they're all progressive. The life expectancy is the same for all of them. So, so after you've been diagnosed, the average is about 8.5 years. Well, the leading theory at the moment is that Alzheimer's is caused by something called amyloid beta, which is a protein in the brain, and it gets cut in different ways by enzymes. And this build-up begins at sort of my age, in your 20s. Basically, when you've got proteins, they need to be processed. So they're very large, and they get kind of cut up by enzymes. And the normal pathway, the amyloid beta goes along, it's cut in a way that's completely fine for the brain. It can process it, it gets converted into loads of other substances. But there are particular ones which is abnormal splicing, and that produced amyloid beta. And these can't be transformed into anything else, so they form sticky plaques in the brain, which you can't remove, or no, it's very difficult to remove. And it's when clearance and creation of these is imbalanced, so you're creating too much and you can't clear enough, that you get then these plaques in the brain that cause neurons to die. And that's what Alzheimer's disease is. So normally what happens is you die from things that are, they're called Alzheimer's related. So quite often people develop pneumonia and their immune system can't handle it. Hygiene is a massive problem because they can't go to the toilet themselves, so they might die from infection. Also in really late stages you have trouble with things like swallowing. There are loads of things that might kill you, but it's all because they have that disease. That's why they call it Alzheimer's related death. Different kinds of dementia cause brain loss in different areas, but what typically happens with Alzheimer's is that memory is the first thing to go. And you'll notice things like, first they'll start asking the same question over and over again with increasing frequency. They'll start doing things like putting their phone in the fridge. I mean, everyone does that kind of thing, but it becomes quite common. And then they'll forget words for things that would normally come very naturally to them. So that's the kind of thing that starts to happen. Later on, it's episodic memory, so memory that they've lived through which they can no longer recall. So events in their lives that they can't recall. And then it'll be things like word recognition, forming words. They have problems with speech. And then it can even get to things like motor function. They have problems walking. No, so there's been loads of research on ideas of what might help things like keeping up good physical routine when you get to midlife. Getting lots of sleep. No, that's actually very important, because it's when you sleep that this AB is cleared. So if you have a very bad night's sleep, you're getting lots of this production of AB and you're not clearing it. So that might speed up the onset. It's 2/3 women to 1/3 men. See, yeah, this is being debated at the moment. We think there probably is something biologically that's happening in women, but it might be that, I mean, this is a personal theory, it's not been proven or anything, but I think that it might be something to do with possibly a factor of something like childcare. If you're having a child, usually the woman is the primary carer, she doesn't get a lot of sleep, and this can contribute. I just think that it's potentially a factor. I mean, I know that women have poor sleep in general, and you know, depression is actually linked to Alzheimer's. I think the only things that have really been proven for people with Alzheimer's, it won't prevent it forever, but one of the things that can help, they hold on to that cognitive reserve for as long as possible. It's really maintaining regimes. Keeping consistency is good, but doing things that activate the brain and can create more connections, new connections between neurons, but not distressing them, because this isn't a disease that can be cured. So making their time comfortable is really important. That is actually a very difficult question to answer, because there are pros and cons to having someone at home and having someone in a caring institution. Obviously, the problem with living at home is that they need round-the-clock care, because they'll do things like their sleep is disrupted. Often they'll get up in the middle of the night, open the door, walk out into the street, and you can completely forget where they live, where they are, how they got there. How do you find them? Also, the pressures of modern day living for families or for people who are caring for elderly relatives. We're now in a position where middle-aged people, they have to work. They don't really have the option of, oh, well, I'll just leave my job and I'll care for my mum or dad 24/7. We don't have that option. So something needs to change. But moving that person to a care home can really disorientate them, because they forget why they're there. And then when family members are coming to visit, they don't understand why they can't go home with them. So that can cause massive emotional trauma to them, and they also become distant and can get really depressed. And because they need constant attention, and you put them in a care home, the carers have all got these other people they've got to look after, and they're short-staffed and they can't manage. It's very hard. And at that point they can be hospitalised, and then it's putting a strain on our healthcare system, which is why it's a really important disease. So let's all find a cure or prevention for it, because we really can't cope. Oh, I think everyone worries that they're having a moment. And it is quite concerning, but other people will spot it if it's actually getting to a point where there is need for concern. With aging, you do obviously get more memory loss, and that is completely normal. It's when it gets to a point where it's becoming very frequent, and it's actually not the person who recognises those symptoms, it's the people around them. So if you are to notice, oh, my mum's doing this thing she doesn't do normally, she keeps putting her keys in the wrong place, once or twice, it's not a problem. But it's the frequency which is the giveaway. I just really want to get into the public mindset more that this isn't a normal function of aging. Because the people I speak to can be really frustrating, because they can be like, oh, that just happens with old age. And it's just unbelievable that that's still an attitude that we've got. When we've got all this evidence that shows, no, this is what normal aging looks like, and this is abnormal. It's not just, oh, they've gone a bit too lally, and I've heard that so many times. Oh, they're just a bit mad. Patience is another thing, because I can understand it's very frustrating talking to someone who can't recall information, but it's not that person's fault. And then that person is met with aggression and anger, and it really annoys me. It feels very similar to, like you said, flight. In 1907, when Alois Alzheimer discovered these plaques, you know, we were still horse and cart, and you know, 40 years later, no, sorry, 60 years later, we're in space. And we're still like, oh no, Alois was right, but you know, nothing's changed. No, very little has changed. I found during my time studying that it is dismissed because of their age. It's kind of seen as, you know, well, they don't contribute to society, so they're not a priority. I think we're getting there, finally. I think we don't do too badly. Other countries do it better, but we're a massive population on a tiny island, and there's just not enough people doing it. We do need more free care. We need more people to work in care homes to be able to look after these people 24/7. If you go onto the Alzheimer's Society's website, it's a really great website. It's got loads of information on how you can help. It's got different volunteer roles that you can apply for, and it also has an option to donate. So I would suggest anyone who wants to help, go to the website and see what you would like to do in order to make an individual contribution. Not everyone's in a financial position where they can just say, right, I will give £100 to charity. But there are other things you can do if you want. I think it's important. Give people the option to do something.